Hello, everybody. We wanted to just quickly welcome you to the 2024 Annual Report Process and Enhancements webinar today. My name is Melissa Cross, and I'm the Director of Education with CAHME. Today, we have a special webinar who will be featuring Michelle Petroselli and Anthony Stanowski. And we just wanted to thank you for joining us today. We have a lot of exciting updates to CAHME's annual report process. And as a reminder, this is only an update on the annual report. There will be a separate CAHME State of CAHME webinar on July 16th. So as for the agenda today, we have Anthony will review the purpose and history of CAHME's annual report. Michelle will review the annual report process and the technical updates and enhancements in CAHME's annual report editor, CARE, and CAHME's annual faculty editor, CAFE, the two acronyms. So that's kind of the agenda that we have for today. And I will now pass it over to Anthony to begin his portion of the presentation.
Great. Thank you very much, Melissa, for that. And welcome everyone to this annual session that we do on how to enter information and how to use the annual report process. The annual report is really essential for CAHME to do. And let me kind of repeat that. It's essential for CAHME to do. And why? Because it helps us meet our mission of advancing the quality of healthcare management education. First, also around that, aside from helping us meet the mission, we are required by the Council on Higher Education Accreditation. And the U.S. Department of Education also asks accreditors to survey their programs annually to understand how well they're doing on an ongoing basis. We also have to release outcomes data and accreditation information publicly out on our website. This also helps to ensure that CAHME meets our standards on an ongoing basis. Finally, we've also kind of made it a requirement that eligible programs wanting to move into candidacy complete the annual report. It's a sign that they're ready to kind of move forward with the more robust site visit process that's going on. And lastly, our benchmarking tool really enables you to get value from the annual report process. The benchmarking tool is your way to take the data that you enter and compare that to a peer group that you define, not that CAHME defines, that you define. And then you use that in your own process improvement part. I thought it would be helpful to take a quick look because we heard at the AUPHA meeting about the data that you're gathering and why do you do it and what's going on. I thought it'd be great to take a look at the modern era of CAHME's annual report process. So prior to 2003, CAHME or AKISA did collect data from our programs. Now, some of that was sometimes annually, sometimes it was periodically. When you go prior to 2003, it's really hard to find a lot of detail on that. But in 2003, we had become CHIA recognized, the Council on Higher Education Accreditation recognized, and CHIA did require that we collect data from our programs annually and monitor that data so that way we can understand that our programs are continuing to meet our standards. Back in 2003, we actually had 47 programs participate in the annual report process. In 2008, CAHME's management said, we need a better way of gathering this data. And so we put out an RFP for the annual report process, and they detailed and outlined what they wanted on that annual report. Unfortunately, we didn't have the money to invest in that level of detail with the annual report. And instead, what we did is we used Liaison as part of our e-accreditation process to gather the data. What resulted was from 2008 to 2016, data was gathered in the annual report, but financial and human resource constraints at CAHME really limited our use and review of that data. In 2017, Bill Tuttle came to me and said, Anthony, I'd like to take a look at the annual report data as part of his dissertation analysis that we were doing. And I was happy to kind of provide that data to Bill for his dissertation, but also as a way for us to kind of clean up the data and what's going on. Bill found that there were a lot of data irregularities in the annual report data. And we assembled a task force in 2018 of leading academics. And let me list the names of the folks that were involved in that task force. Paul Assam, Sue Boren, Mary Cote, Eric Dietrich, Chris Calkins. Those were the academics involved. But aside from academics, we went out to the industry. So we had IBM Watson healthcare executives participate in this. We had people from the ECRI Institute participate in it. We had leading health systems participate in benchmarking. And this really helped us set the stage with where we need to do and to move forward with this. In 2019, as a transition stage, we moved to SurveyMonkey gathering the data, and we moved out of Liaison. That enabled us to do some analysis on the data and pull it together, and also kind of fed into the advanced search tool. 2020, we created the CAHME annual report editor in response to what you said, your program said. You needed to look at data from the past to be able to enter what your current data is. That would help you along in the process. And in 2020, that tool was invented to do that. Now, it was not a perfect tool. It was not a perfect tool. Some of you might remember those days where you were entering in ZERO instead of the number 0 for forms. And I see Keith shaking his head going, yeah, I remember that, Anthony. They weren't fun times, but we were beginning the process of building a very robust tool in 2020. In 2021, we made one of the best hiring decisions that CAHME made. We hired Michelle Petrocelli. And Michelle really kind of worked in making the annual report a very professional process and working with all of you folks in getting that. We solidified that in 2021. We also hired a person to help us with our technology, Stacy Rowan, who I know a lot of you folks know, and she worked with our developer, who's actually on this call right now, to kind of work through that process of taking the annual report data and doing more with it. In 2022, we created the CAHME annual report benchmarker, which enabled you to benchmark up against a peer group that you define. In 2023, in response to you, program directors who kept coming to us and going, do you have faculty compensation data? I heard that so many times that we said, hey, this is an opportunity. And we created the CAHME annual faculty editor in there, which enabled you to put in disaggregated faculty data and compensation. The response has been amazing. We have more than half of our programs who are participating in this. And that means more than half of those programs are able to define compensation strategies that will help them succeed. The other half are maybe a little bit in the dark. And hopefully we'll see those numbers kind of increase in 2024. In 2024, we've seen our functionality improve on an ongoing basis where we have Michelle and the team be able to target programs that are not in compliance with key indicators. And that basically is going to simplify the staff follow-up on the programs. Are you entering the right data? Today, July 1st or June 28th, 2024, we have 203 programs. 203 programs in the CAHME annual report editor. Think about that. From 2003, we were at 47. 2024, 203, more than 4 times as many. It's a very robust tool. It's gotten better this year, and it's even going to get better in succeeding years after that. So Michelle, I'm going to turn it back to you to kind of go through the process and some of the updates that have occurred on the.
Thank you, Anthony. And then thank you all for taking this time, especially during the summer, to attend this webinar. Okay, so first we're going to review the CAHME annual report process that many of you are already familiar with. Okay, so the annual report collection period begins July 1st, so right around the corner. At this time, we do recommend programs on a traditional academic year to begin surveying their graduate population. So programs can begin to survey all recently graduated students, so those within the past academic year, as well as following the completion of their studies. Okay, so CAHME does provide a couple of resources. It provides a sample student survey that you can incorporate within your own alumni surveys. And the sample student survey is especially helpful given the specific wording that CAHME has for its graduate satisfaction questions. and this is within the annual report. The survey was emailed to all of you. It could also be accessed within CARE, CAHME's annual report editor, as well as on CAHME's website under the resources tab. CAHME also provides an annual report data dictionary that describes the data gathered in CAHME's annual report. And then the data dictionary also includes key benchmark data, just like the key benchmark data. And just like the sample student survey, it can be found within CARE, and it can also be found on the CAHME website. Okay, so as many of you know, the annual report is due November 15th every year. This year it's due November 15th, 2024. And it is our goal to have 100% of accredited programs submit on time. And once again, programs on a traditional academic year will have to submit and verify the CAHME annual report before or on or before November 15th. But you'll notice a little asterisk there after the date. Let's discuss what this means. Okay, so this is just a timeline of the annual report process, and this is for programs on the more traditional academic year, those from July through June, or for those with rolling admissions. Okay, so what is the asterisk for? So based on program director input, for those handful of programs on a January to December timeframe, I'll be reaching out to you individually in regard to your specific timeline and when your annual report is due. Once again, this is just a handful of programs, but if you feel, or if you don't hear from me and you feel that you are on a January to December timeframe, please email me. Okay, so just to review, programs should begin surveying recent graduates now. So from July to October. This is just in order to gather graduate placement, income, and satisfaction data. If your program, if your program did not participate in CAHME's annual faculty editor, also known as CAFE, and then more on this later. But if they did not participate last year, then this would be the time to begin entering the faculty data. Now, from October to November, programs should begin verifying and updating last year's annual report data within CARE, and then enter the gathered graduate outcomes data as well. That way, on November 15th, you're all set. You could just press submit, and the annual report is done. So if you feel, but if programs do fail to verify and submit the annual report data in CARE on time, then a late fee invoice will be sent. So with that said, help me help you submit the annual report on time. And I'm really happy to help. So please reach out if you have any questions in regard to this. Okay, so here is a quick summary on what data sections in CARE need to be completed for this annual report season. So we'll just be asking for academic year 23-24 data. Therefore, most of you will just be verifying and possibly updating sections 1 through 5 in CARE, and then entering data, the outcomes data, in sections 6 through 8. And then the last 2 sections are not related to data reporting, but if needed, make sure to update section 9, that's contact information. And then in section 10, you will that's where you will initial and submit the annual report data. Okay, so just once again, once you log into the CAHME annual report editor, CARE, you will notice the yellow highlighted fields. The yellow highlighted fields will need to be complete. So this is, let me make it nice and clear. The yellow highlighted fields need to be complete for this year's annual report. However, though, in the like in the past, if you need to edit historical data, you may do so by easily just clicking on the orange pen icons. Okay, so let us discuss some enhancements. And these are enhancements that CAHME has made to the data reporting and gathering for the annual report. Yes, so there are some big changes that were made this past year, and I'm really excited to share some of these with you. We have a few listed here. So some of you may have noticed in the previous slide that we have eliminated preliminary data. Okay, so this year we're only asking for data from the 23-24 academic year. We also eliminated revenue and expense data reporting. We enhanced how faculty compensation data is reported, as well as other enhancements that will reduce data fatigue. Okay, so this is what we'll cover. And so for each topic, I'll be going into further detail and then show what they look like in CAHME's annual report editor or in CAHME's annual faculty editor. Okay, so the topics we'll be discussing include accessing care and the new navigation bar, the new login and security features, updates made in CAHME's annual report or annual faculty editor, CAFE 2.0. And then in section 2, we'll show you how we eliminated the revenue and expense data and what you need to do in turn. In section 7, we will discuss the minimum response rates and the first generation student question. In section 10, we'll discuss how to verify and save data, as well as the new notice of concern. And finally, I'm excited about the drag and drop feature. And this is how to transfer annual report data from CARE to your program self-study in CAHME's accreditation management portal, also known as CAHME. Okay, so how to access CARE. Let's quickly review. On our website, in the upper right-hand corner, you will click on Program Logins, and in the drop-down menu, you'll find CARE, that's the last option. Once you click on CARE, it will take you to the login page. Here's the login page. You just use your login credentials to access your program's CARE profile. If you do forget or if you forgot your login credentials or need to reset your password, just reach out to me and I'll reset those for you or send them over to you. So once you log into CARE, this is what the profile page looks like. You'll notice that the navigation bar has changed. Here's a new navigation bar. So we made this enhancement to make it easier on you to navigate the extra features within CARE. And then these features include the options to generate self-study figures from your annual report so that you could upload them quickly to your self-study in CAMP. So it's called CAMP here, the first option. And we'll review more on this process later in the presentation. And then so the second option, CARB, to access CARB, which is CAHME's annual report benchmark tool. And this is a very important tool where you can access benchmark data, or you could benchmark your annual report data to a customizable peer group. And then we have the third option, CAFE. And then this option is for those who participated within CAFE and input compensation data. And then we have the fourth and fifth option, which is annual report resources, such as this webinar recording, and then just the help tool, I guess. And then on the left-hand side of your program's CARE profile, you'll notice where you can print your program's annual report. And you can also save it as a PDF as well. Okay, so we also updated the login and security options within CARE. So from program director feedback, from your feedback, we now have created two options to add additional logins within CARE. So besides the standard program director login, we now have an option for an admin assistant login and a faculty compensation specialist login. Now, if you want to create either of these additional logins, you'll need to contact me. Now, why do we do this? To ensure that only the people who are supposed to see specific data can see it. And I'll explain a little bit more right now. Okay. So in option 1, where there is not a faculty compensation specialist, and this is based on your access credentials, admin assistants can never see faculty compensation, only program directors. Again, this access is controlled through CAHME management. Now in option 2, where there is a faculty compensation specialist, these are those who the only ones who could see faculty compensation. This specialist has access to the compensation data. So to ensure security, only CAHME management can change the functionality of compensation access within CAFE and compensation and faculty compensation data within the program. And this, once again, this is to prevent the accidental assignment of faculty compensation to someone in your program who should not see the data. Okay, so now let's take a deeper dive into why we made these changes. So we made these changes so that every program has the opportunity to participate in CAHME's annual faculty editor, CAFE. So CAHME 2.0 eliminates the restrictions on size of faculty. So remember, last year we only had programs who had 35 faculty members or lower. This year, all programs can participate, no matter faculty size. And with the addition of the compensation specialist login, programs that were not able to participate because compensation was not available to program directors, these programs are now able to participate. So therefore, faculty compensation and analysis can be available to everyone. And here, this is what CAFE looks like. And once again, CAFE is within CARE. So see, so you just click on here to enter CAFE 2.0. And this is what it looks like. Okay, so once again, CAHME's annual faculty editor is located in CARE section 2. And it allows you to report on faculty data by creating individual faculty profiles. So let's review on how to enter the faculty data. So first, you will click on the blue Add a Faculty Profile button to create a new faculty profile. Next, you'll click on the orange pen icon next to each faculty profile to enter data right there. Now, when entering faculty data, there are some required fields, and these were always required, and it's shown in the light blue section here, and that's faculty status, hours, gender, race, and ethnicity. And once again, these were always required, and they will be highlighted in yellow, just like the other data fields that are required. Now, if you enter compensation data, there will be 2 additional fields that are also required. You'll also need to designate the length of contract and if there is an administrative role. And this is needed for the filters that we'll show you in the benchmarking tool. And once again, once compensation data is entered, these additional fields will just highlight yellow. Okay, so now if a faculty member is designated as an adjunct faculty member, more additional fields, I guess, will be required. And then once again, they will, I'll point out here, the ones that are yellow are required. These following 4 fields will also be necessary: highest degree level, academic experience years, non-academic experience years, as well as faculty credit, adjunct faculty credit hours taught. And that's an important one. Okay, so once a program enters faculty compensation data, the CAFE compensation by status report tool is enabled in your program's CARE profile. So to access this report tool, you just simply go to the navigation bar and select CAFE compensation by status report. Click on the navigation bar, and then in the drop-down menu, you click CAHME by compensation status report. Okay, in this tool, you can filter by categories such as faculty status and contract length. Once you are ready to generate the report, you just click on the blue process button and the report will be created. Here's an example of what the report looks like. So this is great. So this tool allows you to, one, benchmark your program against comparative norms, two, design a market-based competitive compensation strategy, and three, retain your best talent with paid data. So not surprisingly, about 70% of our programs are using CAHME already, and 70% of those have completed compensation in just our first year with CAHME, and this was also for preliminary data. So as we move past our pilot and into version 2.0 of this tool, and into more advanced data collection and reporting features, we are expecting upwards of 90% participation. So clearly, programs that participate in CAHME will have a significant advantage in creating their faculty compensation plans. Okay, so now some more serious stuff here, but to report faculty compensation, CAHME does have to move carefully. And this is related to FTC and DOJ safe harbors. So we do need to ensure the reports provide a reasonable sample size to ensure confidentiality and that we don't violate any antitrust regulations. So we are complying with federal safe harbor regulations that include that you are providing data to CAHME as a third party. And this is with no faculty members identified. So once again, CAHME is all anonymous. Two, there's no specific program that is identified specifically. Three, you only have access to aggregate data. And then we report average, median, and percentile performance for peer groups. And then lastly, obviously from our level of participation, no single organization represents more than 25% of the data on a weighted basis. Okay, so now moving on from CAHME, we made some changes in Section 2 within CARE. And then Section 2 is where you will report program changes over the past year. So we simplified this reporting process by providing a categorized list of changes that you can choose from. So this is the section where you designate any changes from the prior year, and we categorize those changes to allow for easier selection and analysis. If something does fall out of these categories, you can use the other selection or section and explain, but we really ask that you try to stay within these categories. So yes, you'll select one of the changes and then describe. This also helps us to track the changes over time, and you could see these historical changes over time as well. So some of you may have noticed that this section used to include the revenue and expense data, but this year we dropped the reporting of revenue and expense data just in the annual report. So we heard from program directors at your feedback. You guys talk about the difficulty and inaccuracy of reporting revenue and expense information annually. And also on our part, on CAHME's review, the data itself was not helpful. It was really just the change over the years that was more telling. So what do? We eliminated the actual data from the annual report process, but you still have to indicate in the program changes section if there was a significant change in your revenue and expenses, and then describe what impact it had on your program. And you'll do so once again in the character box provided. And once again, just to note, this is no change in the actual accreditation process. Budget is still required in your self-study for accreditation and reaccreditation. So this change is only for the annual report. Okay, so now in this section, we'll discuss the minimum response rates for graduate salary and satisfaction questions. And these are in sections 7 and 8. So as many of you know, the CAHME board approved a minimum response rate. It required for graduate salary and satisfaction questions for programs to have a 20% response rate. Programs that do not meet this minimum rate will be required to complete a progress report. Last year, it was a phase-in. So you may remember that it was a 10% response rate for income. This year, it's 20% for both satisfaction and income. And note that most programs far exceed this rate. And the board considers these measures essential for tracking your success. So as mentioned earlier in the webinar, CAHME provides a sample student survey. And this survey includes all the graduate salary and satisfaction questions required for Section 7 and 8. So please utilize that tool. And then finally, I wanted to let you guys know that there are 3 separate response rates for graduate satisfaction to be met. So the 3 separate ones. So one for the Net Promoter Score response rate, a second for the 5-point Likert satisfaction response rate or question, and then the return to program question. And let me show you, this is what they look like in Section 7. So here's what the update looks like in CARE for the postgraduate employment salary response rate. And just so you know, the response rate combines reporting graduates for both fellowships and jobs. And then just to note that CARE will highlight your response rate as green if you met the minimum requirement, or red if you did not. And the same is with the satisfaction questions. So here's what the response rates look like in CARE for the 3 graduate satisfaction questions. Each 3 satisfaction questions have their separate minimum response rate. Okay, so new this year, CAHME requests programs to provide data on the number of graduates who are first-generation college students. The Institute for Higher Education Policy recommended CAHME to ask this question, and discussion did occur with the Standards Council back in 2022. So why are we asking this question? We're asking this question as research as part of the implication this has for our programs. The benefits of higher education are particularly relevant for historically underserved students. So the Institute for Higher Education Policy reports that the benefits of improving the educational underserved students, reports that the benefits of improving the educational attainment of first-generation students are important not only for individual students and society as a whole, but also for the institutions where they enroll. So high retention rates are often related to other student success measures as well. So once again, CAHME will research the results of this data, and then we'll determine the value of this question going forward. So while this is optional, we do ask that programs do participate. Okay, so last year we responded to program director feedback again and created the capability for you to determine if your annual report is complete. So this is the updates made to Section 10, verify and save data. So as a reminder, in Section 10, this is the section automatically performs checks on each question in CARE to ensure that you didn't miss any data field. So programs, what you have to do is, make sure you enter 0 for fields rather than leaving them empty. This also ensures to the CAHME team that the question was reviewed by the program director and an answer was provided. Now, before being able to verify and save your data, or before you officially submit the annual report to CAHME, all the yellow highlighted data fields must be complete. Any outstanding data fields will be listed in the data review section, which I will show you in the next slide. And this is below Section 9. And you will only be able to submit your program's annual report once every data field on the list is addressed. Okay, and so once again, in Section 10, once all data fields are addressed, you just simply initial and click the Verify and Save button to submit your annual report. Okay, so this is what the data review section looks like. And once again, it's located, it's yellow, it's a yellow tab instead of blue, and it's located below section 9. As you see here, 93% of the required fields in this program's annual report is complete in CARE. And then you'll see above the outstanding data points are listed. So each missing data point will list the section and description of the question, so you can easily find it within the annual report. Once again, all the data fields in the data review section need to be complete. Then section 10 will appear. I'll show you what section 10 looks like. Here it is, section 10. So a new update has been made within this section, and that's the notice of concern. So I know it doesn't sound too good, but it is good. The goal of this update is to ultimately ensure quality data and quality programs. So the notice of concern will highlight the data points that are outside of expected norms. This will then allow you to self-correct the data before submitting for a CAHME audit. And programs that are not in compliance with the selected indicators will receive a notice of concern from CAHME. So if you don't correct, you will receive this notice of concern and will then be required to submit a report describing how you come into compliance. Okay, so finally, let's save the best for last. I'm very excited to announce our newest enhancement in CARE, and this is the drag and drop feature that allows programs to transfer annual report data to CAHME's accreditation management portal, also known as CAMP. So we created this to reduce data fatigue, especially for programs that have to complete an annual report and self-study in the same year. So please note that if you have a fall 2024 site visit and you want to use this drag and drop feature, you'll need to submit the annual report early. And then also note that the drag and drop feature numbers have changed, but they do align with the updated self-study guide as well. Okay, so here's an example of what the figures from CARE look like. And then next, we're going to go through the process of how to drag and drop. Okay, so yeah, how to use drag and drop. Very easy. First, you use the navigation bar within CARE and select the first option. CAMP, the first option is CAMP, generate image and download. Right there. Second, on the next screen, here, you will need to enter the self-study year you want to download data for, right there. Next, you'll have two options. And this is the two options of how to download the data. The first option is that you could download or generate images all at once, so you get all the images at once. Or the second option is to download or generate each image individually. After you select the Generate button, the images will be downloaded directly to your computer. Okay, so here's an example of what the image file would look like. And in this case, we have figure 2A53. And it's all about positions held by program grads. Do you see it? Okay. So next, you'll follow these easy steps to upload and save the image into CAHME's Accreditation Management Portal. So this is CAHME's Accreditation Management Portal, also known as CAMP. So once you log in, you will first select the specific standard in CAMP. In this case, we'll have standard 2A5. Second, you will click on the Browse for File button under the Evidence tab, shown right here. And then third, you'll click on the Upload from your computer option and select the figure that corresponds with the standard. In this case, figure 2A53. And this is what the saved figure looks like in CAMP. So it's really that quick, that easy. So if any further questions, please let me know. Okay, so just a quick review of what we covered today. We reviewed how to access CARE on CAHME's website and the new navigation bar within CARE. The enhancements made to the login and security features, which include the 2 additional logins for your CARE profile. The updates made to CAHME's annual faculty editor, CAFE, such as adding compensation data and adjunct faculty data. The changes made in section 2, where we eliminated the reporting of revenue and expense data. In section 7, we reviewed the minimum response rates, the 20% minimum response rate for salary and satisfaction questions, and as well as the addition of the first generation student question. And then in section 10, we discussed the added functionalities of how to verify and save data and the notice of concern. As well as one amazing time-saving enhancement, the drag and drop feature, which allows you to quickly download CARE data and easily upload it to your self-study in camp. Okay, so once again, here's my contact information. So help me help you have a successful annual report season. Please contact me with any questions or concerns, or any input, any feedback. I'm happy to hear all. And thank you so much again for your time. And I want to thank everyone on the CAHME team too, as well, Stacy and Aaron, for making this possible. So at this time, we'll be answering any questions you may have. I know someone had a hand raised. I apologize. But if you have any questions, please type them into the chat or raise your hand, and we'll begin answering them one by one. Or if you
Michelle,
prefer,
I'm sorry. I was going to say, let me kind of, I've been monitoring the chat while you were talking, so let me kind of go through and kind of, answer them. So fine, at Duquesne, you were the first person that had a question, and I said, let's kind of wait until at the end. So I'll let you start.
So actually I have 2 questions. My first one is when we fill out adjunct's salary and effort, it's really difficult for us personally in our institution to figure out the percent effort, because, for example, if a faculty member teaches one course, it could be 15% effort for somebody who is a tenured faculty member, or it could be less or more if somebody is a teaching faculty member. So how do you figure that one out?
Okay, yes, it's a good question. So it will be the time that you have to figure it, I guess, at the university level, if I'm correct, right?
Yes, so we have, the full-time teacher is 24 credits. The tenured professor is 18 credits. That's a full-time effort. So if somebody is teaching 3, do I kind of take a percent of, teacher and track or other track, because we have like multiple tracks in our school.
Right. I think Stacy.
Yep, I can chime in here. So for the adjuncts, now what we're going to be asking for is the credit hours taught that relate to the salary that is entered. So if they're teaching 3 credit hours, there's actually a box now where you would select, you'd enter 3. It's not a percentage based number that we need there anymore. Does that make sense?
Yes. I also have another question. When you're dealing with response rate for students, what we did before is, for example, we had the 50% response rate or 30% response rate, but we would supplement that information from like personal interviews with students, because sometimes they don't feel comfortable sharing it online through like a survey, but they would tell you, the information by phone or stuff like that. Are we still able to do that, or to be strictly like survey based?
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and utilize other tools as well, like LinkedIn, create an alumni group where you could track graduate positions as well. Definitely.
That's why the survey tool that we provide to you is a sample, and you can use that tool. We do want the questions asked for satisfaction asked in a consistent way so that we can look from program to program, but you certainly can supplement that with additional information. I saw another question. There was a lot of questions on the faculty editor. How should I account for full-time faculty who teach in multiple programs, including the MHA program? Should I extract their pay that applies solely to the MHA budget? So you have a faculty member that's in multiple programs. How do you account for that? And Stacy, I think you answered it in the chat, so I'll let you kind of provide that response to everybody. You might be on mute, Stacy.
All right, go ahead.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry about that. When it comes to full-time and part-time faculty, non-adjunct faculty, we are looking for the salary at the university level. There's also a toggle within there then that you can say, well, this person spends 50% of their time within my program, but the salary entered will be at the university level.
If faculty retired or left and were already assigned a profile, should we recycle the profile or add a new profile number for the new hire this year? So someone left, what do we do?
And I responded to that one as well. Either one works. You can either disable the profile or you can reuse the profile. It does not matter to us which one you choose to do.
The question, I think Carmen had a question about, will the question on first generation college students be added to the CAHME student survey sample? And the answer is yes, it's in there already. So if you download the student survey sample, you'll see it in there. And again, that's an optional question this year. We really want to see what we're looking for in programs, and we really hope that you participate in it. The Institute for Higher Education Policy kind of referenced the fact that this is a really important question, and they asked us to consider adding it to our program survey.
Yeah, and just to note too, make sure to use the updated student survey. So that was all. The updated one was sent, and the updated one is also within CARE and within the website as well. So just make sure to use the updated one. Thanks.
Thanks, Michelle. The next question was from Natalie. There's a significant difference in private versus public universities. And within the CAHME annual faculty editor report writer, we only have certain filters kind of brought on so far. So Stacy, or Michelle, are we going to ever have in there public versus private and what their numbers are? Could we talk about how we're kind of progressing with the filters at this point?
Sure, I can speak to that if you want, Michelle.
Go ahead, yes.
Okay, so we are slowly going to be adding additional filters. We're just kind of slowly moving through that because of DOJ and FTC requirements, but we collect that data and we expect that filter could be activated soon.
Yeah, we're just moving very, very carefully, very slowly on this process. And we're also making sure there's a robust enough data set. So appreciate your patience as we go through this, but I think it'll be rewarded. The more programs we get in it, the quicker we'll be able to turn on other filters too. Good. Here's another good question from Celeste. For each category of user, do each need a separate login? And Michelle, I'll let you address that.
Yeah, so there is an individual login for each of those. And you reach out to me and I'll send that login to that specific person. So that's how.
And Michelle, I put in the chat a little bit of a clarification. So the faculty compensation specialist is really just going to be for those schools where the program director does not have the access to salary data. So the idea being there that they would then be able to use this faculty compensation specialist to enter salary data for the faculty. And because that gets turned on, then the program director's access to specific salary data is turned off. But if you are a program director that has access to that salary data, you're not going to need that faculty compensation specialist.
Thanks, Stacy. There was a good question from a couple people, and I'll kind of summarize them. I've already sent out my alumni survey because the annual report was due July 31st with our upcoming reaccreditation visit. Brandy didn't include the question about first generation college students on the survey, but she can pull this information from their own university system if students are first generation or not, but not at the levels that were designated on the survey. Should I enter the data somewhere? And I would say if you can fit your levels close to what the levels are on that survey, that would be great. And let Michelle know the variations in there. Now, we use the categories as defined by IHEP. There was some question when we were using them, are we asking at too fine of a level for uh, the, the family experience with colleges? So we'd love to hear your feedback on that as you come through. But I would say if you know that those levels, put them. If you don't, do as best as you can to kind of fit them. Let Michelle know how they vary on those parts. And David, thank you also for your comments in there. Someone said that they have that data on their admissions, but not on the graduates of the students. And what my comment would be is if it's possible to go back to the admission data of your graduating students and enter that data for the admission of the graduating students, if that made sense to you.
And then, yeah, I have one question. Can we create faculty profiles without salary information? Sure. Yes. You don't have to participate. But you do have to enter those required fields within CAHME. And that's like status, hours. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, Michelle, we're really excited. You and Stacy and I are really excited about the disaggregated level of the faculty data. And we're actually in discussions right now with our developer, and Aaron's on. I'd love to be able to acknowledge him out to the group, but we're actually in discussions right now about creating more detailed faculty reports apart from the CAHME annual report benchmarker. Perhaps next year we'll be able to introduce some things for you in there, but that detailed disaggregated faculty data, I think, will be really kind of critical for helping you again plan some of the faculty information, your faculty plans and where you're moving. So if you can enter the disaggregated data in CAHME, please do it. I think you'll really benefit from it in the future. I just have to say I'm really pleased when I read through these comments about the number of you that are already collecting first generation college information. To me, that's a good reinforcement that we should be doing this. And if your university is looking at it, it's probably saying something about the importance of that question. So thank you for those comments.
And I have a question from Cassie. Where do we find the samples student survey? So it's on the CAHME website. That's the most updated one you could find, and it's under the program resources page under annual report. So you'll find it there. And also, I'll email it to you all following this webinar, as well as the recording as well. So we'll have all the resources and available to you next week.
Okay, well, we're at 5 minutes before the end of the session, and just want to thank everyone for your participation in this. Michelle, just thank you a lot for all the work that you do on the annual report basis. And Stacy, thank you for all that you do to help kind of coordinate our different technology platforms in here. And Aaron, I know you're still kind of hiding in there, but Aaron, thank you. All of you are looking at this data set, and what we're doing within it is really the genius of Aaron and kind of pulling it together. So just a lot of thanks for him. Appreciate everyone's time on this, and we'll see you soon.